Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Woo Curious podcast. Your map to the mystical, your key to the sacred, and your guide back home to yourself. I'm Eileen, a writer, a spiritual coach, energy healer, and slow living witch. This podcast is your invitation to explore a world where the mundane and the sacred intertwine. It's a haven for those ready to take the first steps into the realms of magic and mystery, providing a safe space for you to embark on your own enchanted journey towards healing and self-discovery. Here, I'll unveil the whispers of the mystical, the rituals often hidden in plain sight, and I'll engage in sacred conversation intended to stir your soul and lead you back into your power. I'm all about demystifying woo and witchcraft. So, whether you're a seasoned seeker or simply woo curious, I'm so delighted you've decided to join me on this journey. Let's make magic. Hey Woo Crew! Welcome back to this week's second episode of the Woo Curious podcast. This is part 2 of 4 minisodes where I am sharing my story. The audio you're going to hear today is taken from a live I did on Instagram, and so I reference yesterday and tomorrow. That's not how these are being dripped out in the podcast, but if you want to go and binge all 4 parts of my story on my Instagram page at I am Eileen March, you are more than welcome to do so. I hope that some of my story here resonates with you, and as always, please don't hesitate to reach out if you want to ask me any questions or share anything that might come up for you as you listen to this part of my story, the turning point. Before we drop into my story today, I want to make sure that I share with you about my upcoming free 5-day event. So once again, I am running Shine, a guided journey to step into your authenticity. It's running from June 16th to June 20th, every day at noon Mountain Standard Time, live, and as always, will be recorded because life. This is my second time running Shine, and I want to speak to the fact that, when we hear the word authenticity thrown around a lot lately, and so often we feel like, yeah, great, that's all fine and well to show up as my authentic self, be my authentic self. But for so many of us, knowing who our authentic selves are is tricky. Maybe you've looked in the mirror and felt like, you don't quite recognize the woman staring back at you. Not because of aging or stress, although those are very real, but because somewhere along the way you became a collage of roles and expectations. Wife, mother, daughter, caregiver, career woman, good girl. You've worn the masks, you've played the parts, and in the process, maybe you've lost touch a little bit or a lot bit with your you-ness, your truth, your wild, and your magic, the woman underneath it all. And if that feels even a little bit true for you, I would love to invite you to join me on this journey. Every day, we're going to be dropping into a little bit of teaching and learning, and then into guided visualization, which is, I'm just going to toot my own horn and say, my expertise. It's a soul-nourishing space to gently take off those masks, reconnect with the truth of who you are beneath the people-pleasing, beneath the perfectionism, beneath that external pressure. It's not about fixing yourself, it's about remembering yourself. Because when women begin to truly live from their authenticity, when we get to shine our light to the outside world, we give others permission to do the same. And that is world-changing. If you're feeling the pull, the link to sign up will be below in the show notes, or you can always reach out to me on Instagram at I am Eileen March to grab the link to join. Hope to see you there. I'm back, as promised, to continue sharing my story. And yesterday I shared the situation that I was in, the challenge of being in a marriage that I was deeply unhappy in, and taking a long time to get to a point where I could overcome the societal conditioning and desire or need to take care of my partner's emotions at the expense of my own to finally leave. And today I'm going to share what we're titling the turning point in my story, in the path that took me from people pleaser, good girl syndrome, I don't know, embroiled to being a person who recognizes my own patterns and is continually actively healing from that people pleasing, setting kind, considerate boundaries, leading with compassion and harmlessness, and holding my worth, and knowing myself. So the big kind of like turning point moment, I suppose, was the act of leaving that marriage. And when I started to write out my whole story in these 4 parts, it felt like the turning point. You know, everyone's like, and then this happened and everything changed. And while yes, that's true, for me, the turning point really kind of took this arc of about a year and a half. So I left. I left and my heartburn disappeared. As I mentioned, I ran out of my prescription medication a couple of days after I left my marriage and didn't refill it. And to this day, still can count on one hand how many times I've had episodes of heartburn, and it's very much stress related. And I tune in real quick now to ask my body what's going on when that happens. And those first few months on my own were so expansive, and things that I didn't even realize I was interested in started coming in. So shortly after I left, I remember downloading astrology app. It wasn't called an astrology app. It was called The Pattern. It still exists, but it didn't speak about astrological terms. It simply spoke about what your placements kind of revealed about you without talking about placements, without talking about planets. So it was a really lovely way in without being like, well, my Mercury's in Capricorn, and so that means this, because at that time that would have been a bit much for me. Another thing that happened within weeks of me leaving that marriage was I ordered my first tarot deck. A friend who lives in Victoria, she owns a company still. She sells tarot. It's called Homebound Tarot. Check her out. It's amazing. But I ordered my first tarot deck and I started to journal and I started to introspect and I started to just really dig into personal growth. I had a really amazing year traveling, going wherever I wanted, doing whatever I wanted without having to ask anyone's permission. And because for years I had been asking permission to do anything in my life, to go out with a friend for coffee, to make any plans, it was always this permission based and guilt ridden when I wanted to do things that didn't involve him. So there was this intense freedom that also brought back with it a renewed love of my job, my career as a midwife. I had been really struggling and feeling like I wanted to cut back and like I was really drained and I couldn't keep doing it. And I left and recognized that so much of my emotional bandwidth was taken up with managing the emotional situation at home that it really left me with very little for my clients. And so I had this renewed sense of joy and pleasure in my work. And then COVID hit. And COVID took away a lot of the ways that I was filling my cup. And in a lot of ways, some of those things that I was doing was distracting me from the fact that I still wasn't in alignment. I still was doing a job that was so taxing on me and was interfering with my ability to really prioritize the things that I valued in life. Having to say to my family, I'll be there, babies permitting, for birthdays, for Christmas, Thanksgiving, all of those holidays was really draining. And I had always known when I entered midwifery within the first few years of school, I recognized that it wasn't going to be a forever career for me because of the hours, because of the way that it taxes you. But I didn't think that the end was going to come quite so quickly. And I know that COVID really hurried along. So while I was grappling with COVID, as we all were, with canceled travel plans, with not able to go out and
spend time with friends and go out for breakfast after an all-night birth, all of these things that really kept me going, I started seeking something. I I knew I wanted to learn again. I knew it was time to grow, and I just didn't know what it was that I wanted to do. And I have a friend who started posting these really beautiful blog posts about a course she was taking and what she was learning about herself and the reflections she was having. And as I read them, I was like, I don't know what this is, but I want in. And so I reached out to her and we had a call, and she told me about this course she was taking. It was a life coaching course. I had never heard of a life coach at this point, but it was through a place called the Center for Applied Neuroscience. I went to their website. I really loved what they stood for: science-backed, evidence-based, inclusivity, really integral, it felt, compared to some of the clickbaity stuff that I saw when I searched for life coaching. And around the same time as I applied to enroll in this life coaching course, I also was steered towards a woman named Nadine, who became my mentor. But the kind of background there is that she had been a midwife. She had burnt out spectacularly, and she had carved a new path for herself as a healer. And she had a program where she was training other women in what she called wild medicine energy healers training. And she also offered one-on-one coaching and healing support. And another midwife that I worked with asked me if I knew what she was up to. And I was like, I don't know, it sounds pretty woo. And this other midwife, a friend, was like, I've had a session with her and it's so incredible. She's amazing. And so I booked in to have some one-on-one sessions with her and quickly recognized that there was something there for me. Even though when I started working with Nadine, I actually didn't believe in energy healing, even a little bit. I just knew that she had wisdom that I needed: wisdom about my body, wisdom about the cycles and the seasons and the earth, and wisdom about aspects of this world that I had been very closed to for a long time. And so it was towards the beginning of 2022, get my years right, that I started the Wild Medicine Healers training program. I was already enrolled in that Center for Applied Neuroscience life coaching program. And I really started to notice my world opening up, the shifting happening. And this whole kind of year and a bit, this is the turning point for me, from going from this place of putting everyone else first, putting my husband's needs ahead of my own, his happiness ahead of my own, and being really closed off to anything that was magical or mystical or mysterious in the world, partly because of his own belief system and derisiveness for anything that wasn't provable by cold hard science, to shifting, right? This turning point of opening my curiosity to explore my inner landscape, which is really when I entered that life coaching course. It was about getting to know me. At the time, I had no intentions of becoming a life coach. And the Wild Medicine Healers training was the same. Exploring that glimmer, following that nudge. It was my first experience of following my intuition for myself. So that is wrapping up part 2 of my story. Yesterday was the challenge. Today, the turning point. Tomorrow, I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about the commitment that I had to make to me and to those around me as I shifted from one life trajectory as a midwife to a new one as a slow living witch, which I didn't call myself at the beginning, but we'll get there tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If my story is sparking anything, if there's a resonance, please don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to chat with you. And a reminder that Shine, a guided journey to step into your authenticity, is coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll be live every day, June 16th to 21st, with teaching, connection, guided journey work, about 45 minutes every day. And of course, they're always recorded in case you can't attend live. I so look forward to seeing you there. Thank you, and I'll see you again tomorrow.